Hello and welcome to Mr. Penguin Recaps. Today we are here to do a thorough recap of the movie series called The X-Files. The X-Files, a 1998 movie that was set in the same timeline as the TV show and The X-Files. Before we start with the video, do not forget to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to receive future updates. Here is a recap of the last episode. I'm going to discuss The X-Files, a fantasy, horror, and mystery series, today. Beware of spoilers. Take caution and be cautious. Scully saw the conclusion, and now we all do. The 11th season of The X-Files ended in a meaningless jumble of fathers, sons, and other images that might have meant something but didn't. It ended with some news that will undoubtedly cause controversy and was explained away with the standard X-Files non-answer. It's more than impossible. This means that even though it can't happen, it nevertheless does. That is not to claim that it is occurring because it was successful the first time. Season 11 has been based around nostalgia, sometimes embracing it and other times lovingly demolishing old memories. However, although the Monster of the Week episodes reflected on the good old days, the overall changes to the show focused on what went wrong in the latter seasons. Mulder and Scully split up before Season 10 because they never had a true on-screen relationship, and because Scully's decision to give their son away was never fully considered. Their son was brought back into the scene by the Sang Fog, which demanded closure. Scully is currently expecting yet another miracle child, suggesting that perhaps giving the previous one away wasn't the best move. Why not give it another shot 20 years from now if the first attempt fails? I apologize for burying the lead. Scully is expecting. Pregnant, Scully. The X-Files theme is cut in. The signals were there, but I thought I was going too far when I interpreted the symbolism of the couples staying in a motel with a name like St. Rachel's, having sex there, and discussing having more kids there. In spite of the fact that her last pregnancy was a miracle, and she wasn't even supposed to be able to have children 20 years ago, Dana Scully is actually and genuinely pregnant at the age of 54. Though it's impossible, it's more than that. It's a new season of X-Files. Mulder prefers to save his showy silver Mustang for life or death situations, and the route to this impossibility is strewn with dubious motives. After receiving a call from Monica telling Scully that the conspirators have William and are on their way to Maryland, he gets on the road. Monica gives a vague suggestion, thereby not helping. The person who controls your son is the person who controls the future. Her information is incorrect. William, who is scarcely referred to as Jackson in this episode, despite the fact that Jackson is the only name he is familiar with, is not on that plane. It is clear that she is trying to elude the smoking man. Does she really believe what she's telling Scully and Mulder, or is Monica just using them as bait to lure them to Perlu headquarters? If so, is Monica's ruse intended to help or harm Scully and Mulder? In the end, Monica's allegiance to CSM fails. Her motivations are never revealed, and her opportunity for forgiveness falls around 3 time zones short. Why was one of the agent's closest pals forced to switch sides? Evidently, the intrigue is empty. Monica got her to wish if she wanted Mulder to kill everyone at Perlu. You may recall that Perlu Services is the private security provider working on behalf of Mr. Y and Erica Price, San Junipero-ing some of our brightest minds to protect a select few from an impending alien virus by colonizing space. I have to type that sentence with a straight face because when everything is ridiculous, nothing is. When Mr. Y is the only one to leave the aircraft, Mulder decides he may as well conduct some reconnaissance while he's there and ends up killing every soldier present. Additionally, he effortlessly shoots Y in the brain. Fighting prowess from Mulder in Scully's rebirth phase is still useful. Mulder continues to use wordplay in a dad-joking manner. I had some payback, too, payback. Scully stays at home while her partner goes off to play an action hero, where she is forced to wait by the phone in order to inform Mulder of what she has discovered on the web. As a pregnant woman and a human being, she has the right to wear cozy sweaters and watch from the sidelines, but even with her condition, which Mulder is currently unaware of, she seems out of character in letting him go by himself. The last time Scully was pregnant and Mulder left the house without her, he was kidnapped. Scully has taken more risks when pregnant than traveling with Mulder to find their son. Therefore, there is no compelling reason for her to stay behind if Mulder is in danger rather than she is. Since Gillian Anderson has stated that this is Scully's final episode, her absence from most of the action is a frustrating missed opportunity. However, there is a ton of information online. Scully informs Mulder that she discovered a collection of winning lottery tickets in Tennessee, adding the bonus of periodic apocalyptic visions to her suggested morning illness. She is correct in her assumption that it was William because he correctly predicted the numbers and even shared his winnings with the cashier. Jackson's financial situation has benefited from the method, despite the fact that I don't believe the cash is quite that upfront when a lottery reaches quit your job levels. However, it was detrimental to avoiding detection because Mulder and he have now both been made. While Mulder is watching his son hitch a ride with a trucker on a surveillance feed, a stranger inserts a tracking device into his automobile. As Jackson makes his way toward his home in Norfolk, the road trip spans more states, more vehicles, and an excessive amount of the episode. This feels like it undermines one of the season's most significant dramatic developments. Jackson left home to travel because he was in danger, and now that he's lonely, he willfully endangers his two remaining girlfriends. There was a sad, resigned maturity to the way Jackson was forced to grow up so rapidly when he left home, not to minimize the way the past few months had sapped his will to live. His decisions are less terrible if they are not set in stone, like so many of the fates that are sealed then unsealed in this episode. The fact that Chris Carter sees Jackson as being a touch colder than the youngster we saw in Ghoulie is a sign of this episode's greater disregard for consequences. Here, the youngster declares himself as a criminal before the opening credits. Elsewhere, Jackson was a careless adolescent who didn't consider things through. He reveals that despite having a pleasant upbringing, his developing powers ultimately led to his enrollment at a school for bad kids. A government official scared him into hiding, but he made a mistake when he played pranks on his girlfriends. Mulder learns firsthand when he follows his son to a Norfolk motel that Jackson's skills are more potent than he ever let on. Jackson claimed to the girls that he was still working out his abilities, but he appears to have them under control here. Upcoming: Murder on the Streets. The most moving scene in the episode is Mulder's first interaction with William in 17 years. Although there isn't a compelling reason for Scully to skip this trip, the scene has extra significance because it is just Mulder and William. This gives Mulder's feelings as a parent space to breathe for the first time this season. When Jackson opens the door, David Duchovny adopts a heavy, mournful expression of admiration. Mulder hugs him and remarks, "You're taller than me. When you were a baby, I held you." The words "your mother" appear to trip him up as he tells his kid that he has been searching for him forever, serving as a modest reminder of how insufficient their reunion is in light of all of their lost time. Even when Jackson notices what held them apart, he's a risk to everyone around him. Mulder claims that it's not too late and that he can still say to son. Jackson has turned this outlook into self-loathing. He declares, "I don't want to live in this world," implying that if he didn't exist, perhaps what's about to happen could be stopped. As sinister as that sounds, he does have a point, particularly if we accept this episode's explanation for the conspiracy: just kill everyone, at face value. The emotional impact of Jackson's story is muffled by his confused waffle, running home only to consider suicide, but it also fits with his, equally murky, past on the program. He now reflects the internal conflict Scully experienced when she gave up William. Is avoiding someone ever the greatest course of action for their protection? Or is that how the opposing side prevails? And shouldn't she and Mulder continue to consider whether Jackson would be more prepared for his current situation if they had raised him? At least in this instance, Jackson is correct to claim that Mulder is endangering him by offering to assist. The youngster and the man who was following Mulder hitchhiked part of the way home before the boy, with his mind, killed the man beneath an overpass. However, Erica Price and her thugs discover the tracker, and now they are in the room, forcing Mulder to the ground as they enter and encircle Jackson. He demonstrates to his father what he is capable of by sequentially blowing everyone's heads off in a ludicrous but satisfying display of gore. They cast Barbara Hershey for this, before taking off, only having enough faith in Mulder to keep him alive but not enough to stay. Scully, on the other hand, has gone full Mulder due to a potent mix of ennui and sound judgment. Although it seems just as unexpected as it did the other two times Scully came to this conclusion, she is correct. William is the last piece of the puzzle, and the soldiers are closing in on him. She uses Truth Squad with Tad O'Malley, the most popular website for those who say internet site, to spread the word. Let's be clear though, even if all I'm saying is how little I actually need from the X-Files at this point, this is a tolerable conclusion. My Struggle Roman 4 gives more resolution than I anticipated for a show that, 2 years ago, decided to conclude its revival with a devastating cliffhanger. Despite its disregard for the story's integrity, this episode at least gives Mulder and Scully the conclusion they appear to want, and Duchovny and Anderson give the closing real poignancy. This season was powered by nostalgia, and nostalgia, with blinders on, sends the partners into a future that surpasses the low standards set by struggles past, if only because it doesn't involve imminent risk to their lives. It's positive that Mulder and Scully are together and generally content. Those close-ups of Scully's eye had best only be a tease, since the season finale of the previous season used them to suggest that reality wasn't as it seemed. It's been a pleasure having you join us this season, and I want to keep in mind how it all went. May you never lose your VHS tapes.